The way home. Ambra was in Thailand. Warmth, blue sea and sky, the sun glistening off the water. A swimmer with jet black hair in trouble. The ocean retreating. The wave. Running for her life, her father's crazed cries. Tumbling upside down, around and around in black water, filled with all earthly things in its path, the inanimate and the once living. She looked for the car stuck in the tree and the boy she had been unable to save. Once again, he slipped her grasp and was pulled under the water, which gulped him down greedily. The car. She was on the car. Safe. But this time, the water kept coming. Rising and rising. Then she was above the world, looking down. She could no longer feel her body. She did not need to gasp for air. But she could see the horror show unfolding below across the face of the globe. The water kept rising. The outlines of continents were changing. Villages washed away, then towns, then cities. Bridges, buildings, farms and food. Animals, children, the elderly and vulnerable, then those who could run, but found they could not outrun the water. This was not a flood. This was not even a tsunami. The water kept rising, until there was no land left on Earth. There was no Earth. The entire sphere was now blue. Waves the height of skyscrapers sloshed across vast expanses of ocean. Everything and everyone had gone. How could she get home? She wanted to go home. Where was home? The world, her world, had ceased to exist. She saw the faces of her parents and brother, the loving brown eyes of her dog, then other, more disturbing faces. A haughty woman dressed in navy silk with a silver braid coiled around her shoulders. Who was she? A sinister-looking woman with cat-like eyes and a gold stud in her nose, holding a shimmering gem in the palm of her hand. An exquisite-looking man with dark features. Though he was beautiful, the sight of him made her afraid. The faces changed again. A kindly face with blue eyes peering at her over the top of his glasses. Quill. He was carrying an umbrella of swirling colours, pale pink, silver, blue and green. Quill's features changed. The sand poet? He reached out and placed his palm over Ambra's heart. "No afraid," Ambra heard him murmur. But despite the calming touch, she was afraid. She plunged back to Earth, though there was no longer any Earth, only ocean. She was under the water. She could not breathe, but neither could she cry out in fright. Further into the deep, she sank. She only had moments left. She was out of air. She was going to drown, after all. She let go, and the water rushed into her lungs. Ambra woke with a gasp, thrashing around on her bed in terror. She remained in the grip of the nightmare for a long, horrible minute with no idea where she was, before she realised that she had been dreaming. The world rearranged itself back to normal in her consciousness. Venice. She was in Venice, a city built on water. Perhaps that explained the nightmare. She concentrated on slowing her breathing to take her mind away from the disturbing visions. There was only a dim light in her room. She went to the wash basin and rinsed the sweat from her face. Returning to her bed, she spotted a glowing object on the nightstand. It looked like a sheet of paper the size of a small paperback book, but it was alive with energy. Tentatively, she reached out to touch it. The pearly white artifact did not burn or shock her. Its curious energy settled her. She picked it up in both hands and turned it over and over. There were faint markings on it, and on the reverse side, some kind of touchscreen with 2 numerical counters and other buttons to execute a command. What was this? A type of computer? What were the numbers? Did this device require a code in order to work? "What are you?" whispered Ambra. The radiant glow brightened in response to her voice, and its markings became more defined. Ambra peered closely as shapes emerged. A map? It was a map of the entire world. She saw that the counters were labelled lat and long, and each had 3 separate numbers: degrees, minutes, seconds, a button to choose N or S, and one to choose E or W. "'Twill only work once," came a soft voice. Ambra jumped. She turned to see the sand poet watching her examine the map. "Only once," repeated the sand poet. "What is it?" asked Ambra, turning the mother-of-pearl map over in her hands. "To come home, wherever you are, must use numbers." Sand poet pointed at the counters. Then Ambra understood. She had to use the counters to enter the coordinates of the location she wanted to go to. "How does it work?" "How can I be sure it will work?" The sand poet smiled. "Will work. Only once. To anywhere in Terra. Use at most needed time. Will bring you, and anyone you touch, home." Ambra slowly moved one of the counters up and down. So many questions. She looked up, but the sand poet had vanished. Ambra toggled from north to south, then set the latitude button to south and the longitude button to east. Turning the map over, she used the interactive map to find and select her coordinates. 34.833 degrees south, 138.483 degrees east.